job to go in the wall, a hurl, a stick in a shinty bowl, the brick, the brack, the crack, and all. Let's call it an Irish pub. Caffrey's hard, Kilkenny, a pub, the Guinness, pint, a cabbage, crap, the I don't want to be paddy track. We'll call it an Irish pub. While I'll be fucked to swear.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Pubcast. My name is Brendan O'Neill, and I would normally be joined by Mike Cross and Michelle Riley. But in these first few episodes, we are revisiting our previous podcast, Boardwalk Breakdown. Basically, we're shutting down the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast and moving those 13 episodes over here so we can keep them alive and well in our archives. So, the Pubcast is our new podcast where we'll talk about all kinds of stuff and not be limited to only talking about Boardwalk Empire. And it will actually begin on episode 14. So just consider these first 13 episodes as bonus content. Sláinte. Welcome to the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast featuring Michelle Riley, Mike Cross, and me, Brendan O'Neill. If you have any comments or questions, you can contact us on Twitter at Boardwalk Break. Enjoy the show. All right, episode 8, El Dorado.
Okay.
You on board? We have a full house this time, in addition to the usual cast of characters. With Michelle and Mike and Brendan, we have Allison and Tim. So we have all 5 people for the big finale episode. Everyone say hi.
Hello.
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 Libyan.
Hello, Libyans.
So, this episode is the first and obviously last, but the only one that starts without the intro. The famous intro of Nucky on the beach and the bottles rolling up and the song and all that stuff. So what were you guys thrown off by not having the intro?
No.
What did you think of Nucky? Instead of panning down and seeing his shoes and his suit and you saw him on the beach, you saw a pile of his shoes and his suit and his cigarettes on the beach. And then he was in the ocean.
I thought he was maybe killing himself, quite honestly.
Really? That early? The first thing you saw?
I thought maybe that's what he was doing, was killing himself. And I wondered if it wasn't going to be like a constant flashing back to him drowning throughout the show.
An obvious callback to him in the ocean, getting the quarters from Commodore from episode 1 of this final series.
All right.
And without jumping too far ahead, but your guess or your assumption at the beginning wasn't that far off from the truth, at least in terms of what he was saying to Eli later.
Right.
And
Right. And I think the whole thing was very cathartic in that, we always got that scene at the beginning with the shoes and him fully clothed, and now we're seeing him fully naked, right?
Right.
Yes. And rolling back into the water where all this kind of ties all the loathed flashback scenes, at least in Brendan's estimation, how it all kind of ties it all together. Right. And of course, like we've said, or I've at least said, and you guys I think agree, is that it was going to be wrapped in a nice little bow for us at the end.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was good.
It set the tone for that episode, for sure.
It was important because you knew it was the last episode, so it was nice that they at least somehow cinematically acknowledged that this was something different than anything else.
It was the big important man stripped of all his armor. I mean, he was vulnerable.
The Emperor's new clothes.
Yeah. Okay, then the first thing we jump into is the flashback. Young Nucky at Commodore's Hotel.
Right, this entire episode was all about building the tension around how does the moment of truth happen with Jillian getting handed over to the Commodore. Yeah. And I don't think that they were subtle about that. I mean, I think that was very obvious that that's what this entire episode was leading up to and what the entire episode was referencing.
But the underlying part of that is that it wasn't so much about him handing over Jillian to the Commodore. It's when, and it's referenced in this article from Vulture.com, I was reading how it's the first symbolic death of Nucky Thompson.
What is?
That moment when he hands her over.
Yes,
that's
making a conscious decision of...
he is now taking
an innocent.
Yeah, he's taking a turn.
Deal with the devil.
He is now officially shaking hands with Satan, and this is... Now he's going down another path.
So this flashback scene presents the first quote that I'm going to throw in here, where it's someone else saying something that makes sense in the context, but it obviously is them talking about Nucky's life or making a statement about Nucky's life. And this is when Nucky's at the Commodore's Corner Hotel. The Commodore says, "What do you think it says on Vanderbilt's tombstone?" You know, that he and
Something in Latin.
Nucky's like, something in Latin. He's like, no, it doesn't say. Or he says, it doesn't say he worked hard. Like, no one cares about that. All that matters is what you leave behind. And that's what the Commodore said to Nucky. And it's obviously a statement for Nucky's life when he talks about Nucky's just trying to build a legacy. He's trying to, when he talks to Kennedy, all that family stuff, and you got to have something to leave behind. Nucky doesn't
when he literally
have
leaves
that.
stuff behind with Eli, and
Right.
literally leaves stuff behind along the way.
Right.
I do have
But also, though, there was he references he's got nothing.
Right.
You know, so that also
Came from nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
He came from
No,
nothing,
he's
but he
left
also
with nothing.
he's left with
Right.
nothing. So what that says about him as a man, as a idea in this whole story, it's like there was really no impact or no legacy that
Yeah.
goes. Once he's gone, then there's really nothing.
And this is not to be too hypercritical, but the Commodore, the storyline, and how totally aggressively just evil the guy is, did seem a little melodramatic to me. Like,
Yeah, as a character,
you had to wonder at a certain point why people were on board with this guy, because
Yeah.
usually people like that at least have some level of charm.
There was no
that
depth,
gets
there was
people
nothing-
to follow
yeah.
him, and he was just a
Agreed.
jerk to Nucky at every turn. And I can see where sort of that kind of relationship between men can drive some men in terms of an "I'll show you" or a, you know, winning the sort of father approval, but it didn't feel like that to me. And
Yeah.
he was just such a jerk at every possible point, and to think that he had to spend his entire life in one way or another with that guy, I don't even quite get
But
it.
at the same time, I couldn't tell if it was kind of like, because you have to earn everything that you get, that he wasn't going to give anything. Is it to a certain extent like he was training him, or like it was kind of this tough
to
love,
them.
you know, where
Yeah.
where he was just like, you know, you gotta.
And actually,
nobody's going to give you anything. You
got to
it is
take
all
it.
about
He wasn't
yourself.
even
You gotta
earning
get-
it.
yeah,
He was
I mean,
more
you gotta
advocating that just
yeah.
by any means necessary taking, as opposed to like hard work or anything like that. But yes,
But usually it's the,
it was a very
I mean,
adversarial
it was hard to
relationship.
tell sometimes.
though.
I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with you in some moments of it, but then other moments I'm like, well, maybe this is all about him training up the next person to take over for him. That
I
you
don't
know,
think he gave a shit.
But
who
these
was
types of
control.
characters usually have two sides to them. They usually have like
benevolent dictator.
they have
Yeah.
the racehorse trainer. When do you give him the whip? When do you give him the sugar cube? When do you give him the
When you
sugar or
crop
the
'em.
whip?
Yeah.
Right, like
And
any
you
manipulator
can't-
usually
he always has the whip.
Right,
he never
exactly.
gives him the sugar. He never
Yes.
No,
gives
you
him a
never
reason
see
to
that.
stick with him.
Yeah, you don't see the benevolence with him.
But it's at a sign of the times as well.
No, it's just him being a jerk. The
I was confused by that. I thought
the
they-
other guy had
show
this
something.
headed in him to mentor him. I mean,
right.
The sheriff.
if he
Right.
really found him so annoying, he could have cut him loose 100 times, but yet he kept him around. I mean, I just, whatever.
But to that point,
It wasn't
I mean,
quite developed.
It wasn't as, well, I think that there was an implication there that maybe it wasn't really executed as well.
So sticking on the flashback, the next flashback we go to is Nucky at home. He finds bloody sheets at his house. Mabel had a mishap, is what she'll call it. I was baffled by her whole demeanor.
Exactly,
in that
and they
scene.
never resolved it. What
No.
happened to her?
Right.
Why did she leave? Did she leave? What happened to her?
Did
Did
she
they get
leave? Did she
divorced?
die?
What happened?
Whatever happened with
They
Mabel.
never resolved that.
You know,
Right.
honestly, and I couldn't. I was thinking when I saw that scene finally. Did I miss something from the first season or two? Did they ever actually say what
Not that
happened
we
to her?
can figure out.
But I mean, there was a very detached demeanor about her that
Well, I mean,
it
I
makes
mean, yeah.
makes you think that there was like this mental thing that happened where she kind of snapped, and it can imply all sorts of possibilities then of what happens to
Sure.
her.
But that's
Just
what
based
we were
on
saying
her
earlier. That's we think the one storyline, as small as it is, was never resolved. Like,
No.
Right, so we
whatever
never
happened.
really did get a sense of how that they went separately.
Whatever happened to me?
She's alive.
I mean, the
she's
closest
dead,
thing is
they
what you say,
divorced,
Alex.
she left
It's,
him,
you
what
get
happened?
you get that tone of she's just going to go crazy. Or
Right.
she's just going to,
Right.
it's
Well,
going to be of her own.
Any woman within hours of losing a baby is going to have some.
Some
Right.
crazy.
That was pretty close.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It just happened,
Yeah. All right,
But yeah,
continuing this.
I mean, just
Go ahead.
to kind of follow up on that, it was also, Nucky seemed to be trying to connect with her, really try to understand her, try to get some
Yeah.
emotion out of her. But then he gets pulled away.
Yeah, he made a choice.
Also,
Yeah.
and so there, that further kind of took the emotion or the real impact of what that means in terms of their future. That he made the choice to leave or to go do something else and not be focused on her. It just raises more questions as to was that just the end of the marriage, or did they just drift apart, or did something actually happen to her, or whatever? I don't know.
do think that actual moment was like a classic archetype, and I guess archetype isn't the right word because that implies a person or a character, but it was a classic
Character type.
character or scene structure. There's that, and we've seen it in 1,000 movies, that moment when you're dealing with something really important and then all of a sudden something else takes your attention. And at that moment, the guy makes the choice. Like, you can
Right.
think of 1,000 movies that
Right.
happens in.
Right.
They make the choice and they walk away, and that's where it all falls apart.
Right.
The guy drops the hand. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think there's so many
Yeah, yeah,
movies
yeah.
when it just, it's like a commonly
Used, set up.
set up device in so many.
The fork in the road.
Story.
Do you
Yeah.
stay with this important thing or go to this other important thing?
Right.
Yeah. So then we see Nucky at his parents' house. His mom's got a shiner from good old dad.
Yeah, that seemed like unnecessary.
This scene,
already
I thought it
knew
was
he
going to go a
was
little bit of a different way. I knew they were going to fight, obviously. But I thought this is where Nucky beats his dad down and assumes
But
the
there'd be
role
some
of the...
finality to it.
Yeah. Like, all right, now I'm in charge, old man, and this is how it's going to be. Or get out of here, you're out of the family, or something. Never quite got there. I mean, kind of, sort of, but not really. And this is another quote I want to pull out from the dad. So after they fight, and they're sort of, I think that maybe it's right before their fight. Nucky's confronting his dad, and his dad says, "We're here. Wherever you think you're running, we're always going to be right here."
Yeah, that felt a little
That was obviously
placed,
literal. We're going to be here, but
Right.
metaphorical. Like, no matter how big of a guy you become,
This is where you...
this is where you came from. This is what you are. You can't escape what you are, and that's a hallmark in Nucky's life that we see throughout the series.
It is.
Michael,
I'm sorry, I'm reading.
see, you're disconnected again. You got to get back
I guess
into
I
it.
was also expecting something a little bit more dramatic. To your point about we're all here, we're always going to be here. The reference to the daughter that was buried, like they were literally fighting on her
right.
grave.
Right.
Well,
like
they did say we're all
they
here,
referenced
including
it.
the
Including
what's her
Susan,
name?
I think
Yeah,
her name
whatever.
was.
Yeah.
But I mean, literally fighting, like they rolling around on her
Yeah, I didn't
grave
think
was
about
just
that at the
really
time.
kind of
I kind of
interesting.
felt like, though, when it did start to go kind of where there wasn't going to be a clear ass whooping in that thing, it kind of felt like, no matter what you do in life, you can never really fight your dad.
True.
may not be just the dad. I mean, just like your family or your
That
history.
father
Like it's just it's
dynamic,
always
yeah.
it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, you can't
Right?
beat it down.
And I don't mean
Yes.
that literally fight. I just mean, like, you're never going to...
You can't win that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to fight your dad, but you
Yeah.
can't ever win it.
Right. I guess that's what I mean, yeah.
Well, the other thing too that to kind of go back on what we were talking about before, you can't get past your history. Like the dad making fun of him because of his uniform or whatever. That he tried to strip it down to become equals with the dad in
Yeah.
terms of, okay, we're going to
Right.
have this out, and okay, now can we talk about it? I took my coat off. I took my uniform off. Let's have this out. And
You know what that reminded me of? Stripes.
Ah,
When they're in the bathroom and I'm going to
Oh.
take my hat
I'll
off.
take my head off and puts it down, right?
Go ahead, take a swing. Winger.
Punk.
Punk.
There's our connection to the to the old. So we've got a Stripes connection.
Come on. All right, so I'm going to switch gears.
Uncle.
Big toe. Let's go down the Kennedy path with Margaret.
That was
and
actually short
Nucky.
and sweet and
Yeah.
wrapped up nicely.
Loved it.
So, the Mayflower Grain Corporation has a board meeting. They're worried about the repeal not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
They're freaking out.
The wets versus the dries.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
they were-
right.
they
That's
were
what they
saying.
would call it. Yeah.
Then Kennedy shows up at Margaret's office, the brokerage, and
By the way, she made a significant jump from her role before
That's what I was
having
gonna say.
that big office.
Yeah.
I was
now
like,
she's in
holy
charge,
cow,
basically, or
yeah.
Well,
One
she's
of
got
some high
Yeah,
position.
she's
good for her.
She has
she
scammed
was.
her way to the top.
Yeah, but she was, scam, sure, but there is something, she has like an innate ability to navigate this.
Well, we've been saying for
navigate any
weeks.
scenario, really.
Yeah.
And the
She's-
sea of men, too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is a man's business.
Yeah.
In the terms
So
of manipulating people, she's almost like Nucky's equal. She's becoming that force, right? Nucky even used her in a couple points to do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I loved
Yeah.
how she declared him having. Well, we didn't go there yet. How they end up resolving that scenario where she earns Nucky a lot of money, and then he asks her if she earned any, and she rattles off an amount, and I'm like, I don't believe her for a second. She's been stockpiling.
Oh yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course.
It's a lot more than $29,000. So
More than 1,000 shares.
I
Yeah.
hope Terrence Winter hears me say that and appreciates the fact that I believe that she's been stockpiling.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Mayflower Corporation, the partner's been selling their shares behind Kennedy's back. Kennedy's trying to hold his ground, but Margaret says, "Why don't you sell your shares too?" And
If you can't beat
he's-
them, join them.
Yeah, he's shocked. Like, there's no way I could do that. Trying to be this holier than thou guy, even though he's obviously got deals under the table left and right in other aspects.
I don't think he was worried about the culpability of it. He was afraid of the risk.
Yes.
Right. But he's always trying to play himself as this
Right.
Moral
So
guy.
above
Yeah.
board guy.
Yeah. Upstanding. Yeah.
But I mean, history has proven that he wasn't. So,
Well,
Right.
yes, let's be.
Right.
I'm pretty frank about that. And he is more concerned
I
with the
would say
risk,
anybody in
the
that
financial risk, than the moral risk, right? Right?
Am I right?
Yes, I
Am-
think he
am I
was.
right?
Yes,
Am I right?
absolutely. He
All
was
right.
more afraid of the
All right.
financial risk than the moral risk.
So we see the stock just going down, and he's freaking out.
Yep.
He wants to sell at
10,
16,
12.
12, 10. He can't.
She got it.
Handle
And
it.
she was cool as a cucumber.
She's just
You know,
relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, it hasn't
And-
found bottom yet.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I love that whole scene of her just really being in control.
She's in charge.
And, this high-powered guy is like freaking out and like yapping in her ear or whatever. And she's like, not yet. And when it was time, it was even like, okay, now. Like a very calm,
Very calm.
calculated
Yeah.
decision. Okay,
Let's do
now.
this.
I loved it. I
I-
loved everything
I-
about that whole scene.
What I loved was when they shook hands afterwards, and he said, "Your hands are sweaty too, or clammy
Yeah,
too,"
yeah.
because there was. While she was displaying a lot of cool there was a lot at risk because if they
Sure.
let the
Yeah.
stock bottom
And I
out,
love how she told him to come see her during office hours.
right?
Well, yeah, when he said,
He's trying to hit
he
on
was-
her.
Of course he was.
But he was
Yeah.
being real
Strong woman.
condescending, at one point
Like,
too,
oh,
where
we
he
can
was
do
saying,
some business together.
I'll never understand these three things, and the last one is being the mind of a woman. And then she said, "Well, picture everything that you want, and then picture yourself in a dress." Like, there's nothing different
Right.
about what it is we want in
Right.
life, or what it is we aspire to do or accomplish. It's just I happen to be a woman, and I loved everything about that scene.
Yeah.
Well, it also explained the difficulty of the times to it too.
Absolutely. Well,
That's the beauty of it. Is
Of the times and
Right.
continued to now. I mean,
Right.
I think that is an ongoing issue, but I think certainly illustrated in this particular scene.
sure.
Very well. It was.
So then Margaret meets Nucky. I was confused for a second because I wasn't paying attention to the
Right.
setting. I thought they were at the club that was emptied out, like in his
No.
office or something. But that was a rental unit he was going to
In New York City.
buy
In New
or
York,
rent.
right.
Or
I
whatever.
thought it was the hotel room that he was in, or like his
Right.
apartment in Atlantic
Right.
City. Like I was
I
kind
wasn't-
of confused too.
on the ball on that
Yeah.
one. But then I'm like, oh, of course that's why it's empty, and they have other people seeing the unit while they're in there.
So, but it was in New York City, so that was implying that he was getting out of town,
Right.
literally
Yes.
getting out of
Yeah.
town and
Yeah.
going somewhere
Start
else.
Well, yeah.
And
no
it was
choice.
closer to Margaret too, where
Right.
her place was.
And he had to get out of town.
Yeah.
I mean, he had no
Well,
choice.
sure.
And the name of that rental unit or condo was
The El Dorado.
the El Dorado.
Yes.
So we find out that in that shorting of stock, Nucky makes a little over $2 million. Pretty big sum in 1930.
Pretty big.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Pretty big? Yeah.
Margaret made just 29,000.
Claims.
A, I don't believe that number.
Yeah.
B,
Yeah.
she was obviously socking away money the whole time
Right.
anyway.
Doesn't
But,
matter, yeah.
yeah.
She's got plenty of cash.
Then they do that little dance. Very nice. It's sort of a little
It was
bow
sweet.
on their
Yeah, it was.
It
relationship.
was a sweet
It was
goodbye,
like-
but all of that felt like a goodbye. Like Nucky was going to leave. I really don't think if he hadn't have been shot at, he would have killed himself. I think.
Yeah.
See, he was definitely not going to live.
Yeah, right.
I think that were all a series of goodbyes for him.
Right. This was him making his peace with everybody.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
He's out.
But I like the moment in that scene when the
Yeah.
other couple comes in during the
Yeah,
dance
kinda
and kind
interrupt,
of
yeah.
abruptly ends their. They'd slipped into a previous time, back
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
had first became a couple, and it was
Yeah,
a
that-
little bit more
Yeah.
innocent.
Yeah.
Maybe
That
not
little-
innocent,
Yeah.
but more
45-second dance could have happened in the first season.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. And then Nucky says there are things that he did before that he can't do anymore. Sort of putting on the table like, I'm a different guy, I can't go on. Whether he knows he's going to survive or not, I don't know. And then Margaret said, and it's kind of, it was an easy line, but I thought it was a good way to wrap it up. Was like, because Nucky's sort of guilty. He appears guilty. Appears that he feels guilty about Margaret's situation and what happened the past 10 years. Margaret says, all you did was offer. I was the one who took.
There you
And
go.
that's sort of the template for their relationship was that he tried to get her involved, but she was the one that took that final step.
Right.
And she's never fully innocent, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
no.
No.
You know?
Not even close.
All right, so that's that.
It was a nice ending, though.
I have kind of a small little comment, but it
Please.
was
Go ahead.
really, it
Throw it
really
away.
probably
Throw it
is. It's not really related to this, but I was struck by her outfits in this
Margaret?
particular episode because they were very professional,
Right.
very business as opposed to just kind of a feminine dress or
Yeah.
or whatever. That it really seemed to be
Oh,
like
she's
a
evolved
shift,
visually.
a shift for
Yeah.
her in terms of her appearance and her demeanor, and just I think it symbolized a change for her in what her focus is and who she is and what she's going to be doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't know any previous episodes I didn't really pay attention, but I noticed it in this particular one.
You saw it this season.
She used to be very plain,
Yeah.
and now she
Yeah.
was quite continental.
But I mean, it was very, but it
was very
but it was
professional.
Also, yeah. Now
The
it
purple
was very,
suit
correct.
that she had
Yeah.
in this pink, in the I don't know, I think it was pink when she showed up to see Nucky. It was very, you noticed it.
Right,
The
absolutely.
first
'Cause it
episode
was
or
just
two
like a
of
dress,
the
you know,
series,
it's just-
she's dressed almost as an immigrant off the boat.
Absolutely.
Like, she's not
Absolutely.
at
She
all.
was.
Frumpy dresses
Yeah.
and
And even when she was married to women living in the house, it
Right.
was. I mean, she
Yeah.
had evolved somewhat,
Right.
but not nowhere near to where she
Yeah,
is.
it was
now.
very feminine, and it was just a dress of the time and stylish. But this was a shift to a business professional look that she had, and I just thought that jumped out at me.
Well, while this
in
episode is the end of Nucky, you can say it's the start of Margaret.
probably
I totally agree with you on
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
that's
totally
the spin.
agree.
Is that the spinoff?
Yeah.
Oh.
No one would watch.
Margaret in New York.
Yeah.
Watch Margaret engage
Margaret
an
and
insider
Kennedy?
trader. Yeah,
Speaking
no,
Gaelic to each other.
no one.
Getting involved in hijinks.
Yeah. Where should we do our
Slash
running
dance.
this week, honey?
Yeah. A lot of Laurel and Hardy stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I want to end this one now, but I want to get onto. This is the last segment of our little Nucky jaunt here, and it's Nucky visiting Eli.
Yeah.
Great scene.
Good scene.
Yeah. Eli's in some sort of storage room in the back of the boardwalk somewhere above whatever store.
Yeah.
He's still a mess.
I like how he brought him a razor.
I know. So he
That was a
opens the
great-
bag, then
yeah.
Nucky brought him tons of money, $50,000 or whatever's in there. And then at the end is a razor, a shaving
and a
kit.
brush, yeah. Yeah, I thought that was...
He was really great, though, the way they did that, because it wasn't saccharine, and it was very Nucky.
Yeah.
He was very matter of fact, and he sort of said what he said, and he very plainly said, I won't see you again.
Right. Yep.
I think it's better that way.
Yeah.
And kind of went through that. Eli looked wounded, as usually does. He looked,
And
Well, and him saying, why did you end up being the wise one?
Right.
I wrote that down.
And
because you needed me to be.
right.
What a great line.
yeah, with
That
no second thought. Well, obviously that's why. He was like,
Yeah.
and that's interesting coming from a family dynamic where you look at certain things and you go, yeah, some people just sort of intuitively know certain things, and other
Yeah.
people are just
Right.
constantly surprised by them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he had to step up and protect Eli.
Well, and the other thing, too, in that scene, weren't they, Nucky was basically encouraging him to actually don't assume that she's going to say no.
Right.
Just go out there and take a chance. Otherwise,
Knock
you're
on the
never going to
door,
know.
you'll never know.
You're
Right.
going to always regret it if you don't.
Well, and he also had the benefit of knowing he had a pile of money in his bag, which is probably going to make a little bit of a difference.
Right.
Right.
Well, and here's one where Nucky says something to Eli that basically sums up Eli's entire life. Talking about his relationship with his wife, and they're living wherever they are, and they're just there ready to potentially... They're there where Eli can reach out and reconnect.
Yeah.
And Nucky says, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And that's Eli's whole thing is, what are you waiting for? He could do all this stuff, and he has the ability to do all these things throughout the entire series. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, he does spend a lot of time.
He never makes that step. He always...
Till Nucky tells him what to do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Switch gears. Capone.
Capone. Yes. Very heartfelt
Capone
Capone scenes.
is complaining about the ledgers being taken by D'Angelo, whose name we find out is actually Malone.
Malone. A fucking
And-
Irishman.
And that's what hurts the worst.
Capone is not mad about that. He's mad that he's an Irishman.
And he was
That's-
passed himself off as an Italian.
That was fantastic. When I heard that, I'm like, oh, Mike Cross.
I busted out laughing when I heard
Yeah, it was good.
But then he says, that hurts the most, as
Yeah.
opposed to getting busted for...
going to jail. Right. That's no big deal.
And the whole time, Capone is thinking he'll beat the rap, he'll pay off judges. He's blowing this whole thing off, not realizing that it's so huge.
I don't
and so
think
important.
so, Brandon.
I think that was a
he-
front.
I think
I
it was
do
a
too.
front.
No, I know. I don't think he believed it, but he kept...
He kept
saying
acting
that
that
to his
way.
guy.
When he
Cool
had the
in front
moment with
of
his son,
everyone.
he
Yeah.
knew what was what.
Listen,
Yeah.
he had...
Right.
He was putting on the Capone facade
Yep.
Yeah.
to keep everybody as comfortable as they could until the final
Don't
moment
worry,
of impact.
it's nothing. We got lawyers. Pay it off.
I
Don't
totally
worry, we
agree.
can-
I mean, the scene with his son, and then the scene of him in the limo before he gets out.
Yeah.
I think both of
Yep.
those things, there's two things that were happening. One, he knew that this was actually a bigger deal, that this really was going to be the end of him, and that's why he had the conversation he did with his son. But I thought how he was in the back of that limo
Yeah.
and actually put makeup on his scar.
Right.
It was all about the image and the
Yes.
look.
He had the white
of
suit
him,
on.
the white- I mean,
Yeah,
it was all about the show, and it was less about
What was really going on.
Right.
And when he
Right.
saw D'Angelo on those stairs, I said to Joel when we were watching it, I said, "That is a great scene."
Well,
Yeah.
he had the
Great
the
line
gulp.
in the
Tip
car.
the
Tip this cap.
Tip
up
Yeah.
the stairs,
Yep.
and then he went to an aerial view, and then he saw him do the tip, and it was just like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
I thought that was a great
choreographed
Yeah,
scene.
Well, what I liked about this whole arc was that it really did. I mean,
Humanized him in a
it
different
humanized him and showed him in a completely different light than everyone thinks about Capone.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, even in the prior episode, I mean, he was just a nut job.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
he was
Well, I think
just
those things are true, and you have to
I
acknowledge.
Yeah.
totally
Showed
agree.
a little bit of self-awareness, which you didn't see the entire
Ever.
series.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
But the little scene with his stuffs on, that was
So-
very, very touching.
And some of that is realistic, and some of that is there is truth
Right.
to that he felt very protective of his son because he was deaf, and he really loved his family. There was no question that he loved his family. I mean, it doesn't excuse what he did, but it certainly is something that it never gets portrayed in anything that you hear about Capone. It's always St. Valentine's Day, it's the Moran, it's,
Well,
it's all the
story,
things.
did you see his house is for sale?
It's
Like for $287,000 bungalow.
Cheryl, you're in the market.
I know.
You could have had these there.
It is for sale,
You
and
could have
there's
had
some
these.
people that
What town? In Cicero?
No,
Or
no,
the city?
in the city.
Chicago.
Yeah, I can't remember the address, but I want to
Come
say
on.
like back in the
Everyone
yard.
start.
Yeah, it's probably back.
Let's
there.
divvy up.
Yeah.
Let's. You guys
Pony
throw
up,
in 50.
everybody
We'll
pony up.
throw in 50. Let's
287. You
go.
can't believe somebody hasn't bought it by now, but yeah,
So,
it's for sale right now. In a couple weeks.
With his
Look it up. It's on.
I'll look it up.
discussion with his son,
He's
he
not checking his phone.
I'm checking my phone.
he makes a statement that obviously makes sense to his son, but I think is more telling of Nucky. It's more about Nucky. He says, all the bad stuff I did was for you.
Capone.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Capone says to his
son.
son. I think the statement you could take out and put it
Towards
Nucky.
Nucky.
All
Look how
I
everything
did
is
was
rationalized.
that's true.
That's how it's been.
All I
run.
did was for you. I wanted to leave you with something better, and that's like Nucky's theme throughout this whole.
This is the theme of the
season.
entire not even
Right.
the
all about
season.
legacy.
The show
Right.
has always been about
Yeah.
legacy and leaving
Yeah.
something better and getting maybe getting that next generation to a place where they
Right.
don't have to do this kind of work. They can be legitimate business people.
Again,
Right.
back to our Godfather analogies, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Every time I try to get out,
Just see what I have to do for Francis.
they keep pulling me back. Baby wipes not count at this point. Though.
Every time I wipe your ass.
I think it's the last time.
All right. Now we're at Lucky, Lansky, and Siegel. They are setting a
annoying.
meeting. Yeah, they're still annoying.
They are
Seagull.
Siegel's.
Benny Siegel.
He's
Siegels. They're very punchable, all three of them.
is
All
is
three of them.
Benny Siegel more annoying than Mickey Doyle?
Yes, in my estimation.
You know
because I
what?
love Mickey Doyle.
I know.
I
so
was
too.
sad about that one.
Mickey Doyle is who he is,
Oh
right?
my
That's the one
God.
thing.
I was cheering, right, Tim? I was cheering.
Oh, I was ecstatic.
The
Get rid
But
of
that
him.
Bugsy is...
listen,
He's worse.
He's worse.
Here's the difference
Oh,
between
yeah.
Benny. Here's the difference
He's
between
worse because he's dangerous. Mickey Doyle's
Mickey Doyle is harmless,
a knucklehead.
and also Mickey Doyle knew who he was, and he never tried to hide from that.
Right.
Where Benny Siegel
He
might have
wasn't
been
smart
more
enough
of-
to hide from it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
he certainly wasn't smart enough. To do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those three together are
Credit.
quite
So
the
they're
interesting crew.
so they're setting a meeting with all the Italian bosses. It's set in stone. They're trying to get the guy from Buffalo,
Yeah, I
but
love
that's
how
about it.
Siegel and Lansky are trying to set a meeting with the Italian bosses.
Yeah, it's good. They're reveling in the fact. I mean, they're just basking in their own glory
Yes,
of
they are.
now we are the young
Where they were
dogs.
and where
We're-
they-
Yeah, they even said
We're
something
taking
to that
over now,
effect
yeah,
of, can
finally.
you believe that?
when I met
8
10 years
years
ago
Oh, yeah,
with
so I remember when I went to
Torrio
dinner with
and Nucky
and I thought, oh, I've arrived.
Big
or
Jim
I hit the
Colosimo.
big table, yeah, and now look at me, yeah.
And this was true to form. In its the reality is that those guys were in power for another 20 to 30 years.
yeah, yeah.
In some variation or another. I mean, some of them didn't last as long as others, but
Colosimo
Well,
got
I'll tell you about
whacked early.
Luciano. I mean,
no. But Luciano lived
just
till
like
the
randomly
60s.
Oh,
showing
those
up
guys,
in
yeah, yeah,
Chicago,
that crew.
you knew Luciano name. I mean, and he's not even a Chicago gangster; he's a New York gangster. But I mean, like that, even as much as like the 70s and 80s, you still heard that name.
Sure.
I don't know when he died. But
60s, but those guys,
Yeah.
their staying power gave them a lot of, that name resonated for a long time after
Yeah.
they died.
Did Lucky always have that droopy eye the whole 5
That came
seasons?
No.
that came later.
this-
In
That
the-
was post. Something must have happened in the 8
in the
years.
7-year interim between season
4 and 5.
Yeah, he got the cut.
He got the
at
cut.
end there.
Oh, it was cut?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got sliced. At some point, he mentions to Capone like, "Oh, I
got
must have went to your barber, and he's got this, and Capone's got that." Yeah,
Okay.
But it also
He
helped
said that
them
when he
sort
went
of
to visit
reset.
Capone.
yeah, like
so-
in the first
Yeah.
season or episode or two.
Yeah.
When he gave up Van Alden.
Yeah. Lucky, I think from the get-go has been, except for Gyp Rossetti, who is just out of his mind,
Jib.
Luciano has been the most ruthless gangster, the most violent gangster
Yes.
of this group. And it comes out again, even
He
setting...
is the most violent gangster, but yet I must say, he's about 1% of Jip
Oh,
Rossetti.
well,
Right.
Jip
Right.
wasn't. Here's the thing with Jip, and not to get too derailed, but Jip was not the kind of guy who could
He was
get to
just
the
bananas.
level of where
No.
Right,
Lucky
because
Luciano
he's too
was.
basic.
He's a maniac.
He was basic. He was a complete maniac.
Yeah.
That's all he cared about.
All right, I didn't
Right,
mean to
and,
No,
well,
that's right.
but when you're that crazy about it, the bullseye on your back becomes that much
bigger.
Well, what did we say before? You know, the light that burns twice as bright lasts twice or half as
as
long.
long, right.
That's Jip, right?
That
But
was
so
a good light, though.
Wow.
That was
even-
a good line. That was very profound.
I say that because we said that 4 episodes ago.
Don't tell your wife that.
It's on tape. What am I going to do?
Made it sound like you pulled it right here.
But so even setting up the meeting with these Italian bosses, Lucky says anybody who's not on board, they're fucking gone. Let's whack all of them. Anybody who's not involved with our little scheme, they're done.
Right.
Even his own guys. I mean, his own
Right. Extended.
Italians.
Yeah. His people.
Libyan.
The Libyans.
Sicilians.
The Sicilians.
So during this meeting, Lucky gives Siegel the word to kill. What does he call him? Like your friend.
Your
or-
friend.
Yeah.
What do we do about a friend?
Yeah.
And how-
They left it vague.
They're
They
they're
did
dying.
in Harlem.
They're
yeah.
dying
We
to
didn't
kill
know who it
somebody.
was.
And it said, "What do we do about our friend?" And he goes, 2 shooters in public, so people know."
No fuck ups.
Yeah, but I didn't hear.
In the moment, you think it's.
Nucky.
I think it's Nucky.
I did too, and so did
Yeah, I guess you wonder. Yeah.
And you just stole Allison's thunder because she was going to jump in and say that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you were going to go somewhere
You were
else.
holding me back, my friend.
I was going to say
Literally
that so you could then.
figuratively.
You
The
could then
man
counter-
holding you down.
It's like Margaret.
Yeah. You're like Margaret. You're like Joe Kennedy.
Imagine,
they're really
imagine
wanna be-
everything that you want,
like Margaret
and then
and
put
Nucky.
yourself
I
in
don't
a
want to be
dress.
Nucky or Kennedy in that situation.
It made for an interesting play in that
In that
scene where he's
situation,
walking the
Allison
boardwalk,
is Nucky,
right?
by the
Right.
way.
Because when he's walking that scene on the boardwalk,
Right.
immediately following that, Nucky's walking and he's almost. It was fun to watch again for the second time, just seeing him like he's almost like aimlessly wandering,
Yeah,
like
he
he
is.
doesn't know where to go, and he's trying to get his bearings.
But also, he was like he was in the crowd. Like there was nothing special about him.
Right,
There was
he's
nothing
now
that
normal
distinguished
dude,
him as
right.
anybody important. He was just
Walking
there.
with everyone else.
Yeah.
And the way that they shot it, because it was immediately following that scene, it
Yeah.
made you wonder, were they talking about Nucky or were they talking
Right.
about somebody else?
So immediately following that, we see Narcisse getting gunned down.
No, but before that, though, then it becomes the big question mark scene that we've all been dying, I think, to talk about, and that is the woman that comes up to him on the boardwalk.
Do you want to see your
and,
future?
Do you want to see the future? And it was a weird kind of
Yes, there was
Yeah, it
some
was
ominous.
segment. Yeah.
She says, "I'm from the future. I have a message for you."
You want to know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the TV, there's "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" playing.
Right.
I still don't
Seemed random
get that
to
one.
me.
I still don't
Seems
get it. We're
random.
going to have to read a lot
There's
of
something going on there.
critical
Right.
essays on that
But
because I don't get it.
But he goes. I mean, so let's kind of break it down. I mean, he goes into this tent and he can't quite find his way. Like he's kind of lost in the dark.
He says that. I can't see anything.
Can't see anything. I don't. Like, it was like really implying
Right.
that he doesn't know what's going on. And then he sees this image on the screen, and it was kind of like showing that the time is changing. I mean, it's
Right,
the first
right.
television broadcast,
Right.
and so there's a significant shift that is about to happen in terms of the world that he lived in and the world that is going to be.
Yeah.
And
he
that
is
was-
of the past. That's
Right.
what it was
Right.
telling him.
And I don't know if the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star means anything or if that's actually a part of history and that's one of the original broadcasts. I couldn't find it online.
Yeah.
I couldn't
in a
either.
30-second search that
Yeah.
I did, but it was just kind of an interesting acknowledgement that times are changing and the world that he knew is not the
It's
world
not
that is
there
going to
anymore.
be.
Right. And we will hold Nucky's fate toward the end here. So let's not go to that far just yet. But, okay, so Narcisse is shot On the steps of the church he comes out
Love
of.
it.
Fantastic.
It was
Right?
it was like the one of the more satisfying
Yeah,
moments.
I totally agree with you.
Had we not had the other kill, this would have been the quality kill of the episode, right?
Yeah.
I actually think this one was more
To
dramatic.
me, this one was better, but
Come on.
we might have to vote on it.
The whole standing
Well,
up
all right.
and then the getting
Oh,
shot
he was trying to
again.
get up.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
That was it was very satisfying that guy finally got
Finally
what
bought
he
it.
needed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he'd escaped all of the,
Yeah, he had
I mean,
sideswiped so
oh
many
my
bullets
gosh,
for so long.
Like
and
it was time. It was his time.
and I love the fact that he was standing on the steps preaching
Yeah.
Right.
when it was
Yeah.
He was
reading,
Yeah, I mean,
reading
the
scripture
holier than thou attitude. And
on his way back to his whorehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that where he was?
he was. You know, that's where he was
that's
going, right?
That's exactly it. I mean, he tried to present himself as this
Right.
this
This
preacher,
Libya.
this spiritual
This preacher
person, this
Libya.
highly
This
educated
leader
person.
of
But
the
at the end of the
community.
day,
he was a flesh peddler, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the only thing
right.
left now is
So
Jillian.
So Jillian, we see her at the psych hospital
I found this to be unsatisfying.
/ nut house. Nucky visits, and he says, she's looking. She doesn't say anything. I don't
She doesn't
think.
say
No,
anything.
Right?
no.
No words.
He does all the talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's playing with a little
little
Ladybug.
ladybug on her
her
finger.
fingers, which I thought was kind of
She
interesting.
never addresses him at
Right.
all.
No.
He says, I'm not someone you should look to for hope. I'm leaving here. I'm starting something new. And then he says, I put money in a trust for you if you ever
get
out.
of here, you can get the trust.
Interesting that he would do that, but not help
her
to get her
leave.
out.
Yeah.
Why would he do one and not the other?
Yeah.
Because
Any
I don't think
thoughts
she-
on that one?
I don't think that he thinks that she necessarily should be out.
I don't know that he could get her out. How could he get her out?
Well, he's got
kind of
$2.2
implied
million.
that based on what she
do something.
decided, like there was like she
She
kind
was
of made her
convicted.
own bed. You know,
Yeah.
like there was
Right.
something insinuated that she made some decisions that kind of
Right.
got her here in the insane asylum. Insane
Yeah,
asylum.
I
as
think the
opposed to
decision was
prison
to
or
plead
something like that.
insanity.
Right.
Right, and so there was
Instead of-
only so much that he could do.
Yeah, that was
based
that was
on
how
that
I
path
took
that
it.
she took.
Is that she did this, and what could he do? He can't just say, "I'll take her." I mean, she's in.
Right.
She's been a.
I think he wanted to keep her in there. Just
Well, I
potentially
think
keep
yeah.
him-
Well, it's also in some ways to keep her safe, right?
Right.
I mean, she's kind of her own worst enemy in so many.
Well, she has
ways.
been, yeah.
Oh, I don't think there was anything benevolent about it. He wasn't trying to do something for her quote own good. He just
it was all about
that
his
was the
own-
most
I
he
did-
could offer.
I did
Yeah.
find it interesting. You know, she had the ladybug kind of crawling around on her fingers or whatever, and she made the comment about how can you really tell who the lady is or something like that.
How do- how
There's
do-
a
how do they
ladybug,
know
but how do
which
you know
ones are the ladies?
Who's really the lady or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I thought that that was kind of an interesting comment to make. Just
Was that a foreshadowing
Right.
of her grandson?
yeah, I don't
I
know.
kind of thought that it might be only because I know that on the face of it, that scene was playing that she was just being crazy and not engaging with Nucky. Nucky's just running at the mouth in the whole
Yeah,
scene,
right.
and she's not doing anything to stop him. And because she's not engaging with him, he just keeps talking.
Yeah.
And I suppose on the face of it, you could have looked at that and go, "Boy, she's really lost her marbles." But I feel like she knew exactly what she was doing,
Right.
and that was very purposeful.
Right. Although we did
And she
find
was just
out that
torturing him.
she obviously
She's been-
had something
yeah,
taken
yeah,
out
right.
with-
Yeah.
by that Dr. Cotton.
What did she say when she got up and he
There's
took her
still
hand?
some chivalry in the world.
Right. Because he puts his hand out to help her
Yeah,
up.
there's still some chivalry.
Which is the exact scenario when he asked for her hand
Yeah.
on the boardwalk when they're...
Right.
So now we're getting down to it.
But I did find that unsatisfying. Just
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of like, okay.
I agree.
Well, bye.
I don't know. I didn't find it unsatisfying. I wouldn't say it was. I think a lot of these threads were maybe purposely left dangling a little bit so that you could draw some of your own conclusions.
Well, it was less satisfying than him saying goodbye to Margaret and him saying goodbye to Eli.
Right. It didn't feel resolved. It just was sort of like, okay.
But
Isn't
how?
but isn't that part of it? Though?
Yeah.
I mean,
How
because
formulaic would this have been?
Because the conclusion
Right.
happens
Formulaic.
later in the show
That's the word I was
that
looking
connects
for
it to
earlier.
her.
Right.
So I
But
don't
I
think
thought-
that scene was intended to be the
No.
closure.
It's not. But I thought she and he would have had
More
bigger
of an
exchange. Yeah.
I agree.
Hash out or air their bullshit.
I don't know.
I thought she would have had something to say.
Yeah.
I kind of
Right.
like the way it played out, but that's just me.
All right. You weren't a Jillian fan anyway, so I mean, that's
No.
that's
I
fine.
am.
The less she talked, the better.
I'm sorry for the abrupt edit there, but this episode of Boardwalk Breakdown has run a little bit long, and we're breaking it up into 2 parts. In part 2, we break down not only the final episode, but the final season and the series as a whole. We also talk about our favorite characters, our most hated characters, and just our overall take on the series and some final thoughts. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening to Boardwalk Breakdown, and follow us on Twitter at Boardwalk Break.